Hey, good morning. Thank you for being here. This is Tea Time with Amie and Bev. I
Good
think I'm gonna
morning.
have to change the name because I want to say Amie and Bev in Tea Time, and I want to say it backwards. But anyway, uh, Tea Time with Amie and Bev. Welcome back, Beverly. Woo woo. I was hoping that people wasn't the audience wasn't getting tired of just me. I was like, and here I am again.
I know my office is under construction on top of everything else, so
Yeah.
yep.
Wow. So the past couple weeks, I've been talking about uh, past lives and spirit and um, something that has weighed heavy on me this year because of everything that's been going on. I've had my beliefs and stuff have been tested this year, and I withdrew myself from community in faith because I was really active in Facebook and doing videos every week, and I had to withdraw from all of it to kind of regroup. One of the things I found out the other so yesterday, the day before, my days just run together. Somebody posted about Chiron, or is that how you say it? The planet Chiron was in retrograde since July, and it just went direct, and it has a huge impact on energy and healing and all this other stuff. I was like, oh, well, that might be what's been contributing to my craziness. I don't know much about Chiron, so I was like, okay, cool. This is one more thing that's going to help. this, this planet going direct. Okay. Um, but what really weighed on my mind, and I have a strong, and this is, I guess, we teach what we want to learn. And so talking about spirit, I think it was mainly my own therapy over the past couple of weeks, by talking about it, helping me get back into alignment with what I do believe, um and like purpose of life. And for me, and in what um makes sense, and I do strongly believe it, that we're here to expand and grow through human experience, and live a life in the best way that we can with our human side, learning to navigate that, because our spirit's just joyful and fun and just wants to play and have a great time. uh but then that human side comes in, and our choices and free will and all that stuff, and the emotions, the multitude of emotions that just, some of them really jack us up. um but recognizing that through our lives, and this, again, I'm talking about reincarnation, so if this isn't something that you believe in, then maybe you want to shut this video off right now. But I do believe we come back over and over and over again for many lifetimes, and some of us are very old souls, and some of us are very new in our physical bodies, and that each life we have experiences, and in each life there's room for growth and expansion. um, Also an opportunity to get better and better, I think, for me. And it's like what I've been hanging on to for quite some time, many years, is okay, well, if I had these experiences in other lifetimes, and I'm coming back with these same people, but with different role playing. So maybe, I was the mom in the past life, and my mom was the child, and now this life we come in reverse roles. Like, there's some energy still to be cleaned up, and having that opportunity in each lifetime to, whether you know about past lives or not, is to clean up some of that energy. And some people might call it karma, is just to clean some of that up. Like maybe you murdered somebody in the past life, and then this life you come back and you manage to get through life without harming people in that way. Maybe you still have the anger or the internal discord, but you haven't harmed anybody in a way that's devastating. And so I think in my head, what makes sense to me is, well, the better I get in this lifetime, then the next life, man, it's going to be amazing. And so I'm setting myself up for an amazing life next time, right? And so I had to build myself back up in that belief about what life was about, and it's to help each other get through this lifetime and or any lifetime, to help each other. And it just comes down to humanity and being there for others and supporting others the best we can, and making the best of it. So I just want to kind of wanted to, you know, have that discussion of why I was talking about lifetimes and spirit and all that over the past couple weeks. Also, I love talking about it. It's one of my most favoriteest topics, and I could talk about it for hours. Like we could be here for hours and talk about this stuff. So anyway, that was just something I wanted to bring in and kind of give more information about. Even a mentor I have, she's teaching. She had a class Monday, about purpose. And we think that the purpose of our life is not supposed to be something big and huge and grandiose and amazing, right? And really, it's our purpose is what we're doing in each moment. You know, purpose is Bev and I's here to have this conversation to hopefully benefit other people. Or just it's our own therapy session with each other, and you get to witness it, however that works, right? And you know, later my purpose is going to be taking the recording of this and downloading or uploading it and getting it ready to post tomorrow. And then after that, my purpose is I'm going to start dinner because I've got to cook all day. And then my purpose is going to be working on my website, right? So each moment of your day is creating a different purpose. And really, we are, just because we're spirit and body and we're here, we have purpose. Plain and simple. You don't have to like end up being, you know, the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar company to feel like you have purpose. Your purpose might be, if you're homeschooling your children, that is your purpose in the moment, is to teach your children, or clean the house, or yesterday I did the laundry. That was my purpose because I needed, you know, underclothing. So anyway, do you have anything on that, or is there a topic you want to bring to the table?
I actually have no idea what we were going to talk about today, and you talk about purpose and stuff, and I think even to me, even a more simple way of looking at purpose is it's as simple as just finding love in every space, no matter what you're doing. To find love in all spaces, it's to be in love in all spaces. As simple as that. I have a different. Recently, I feel like the rug's been pulled right out from under me, and I've been like questioning everything. And you know, I've read different stuff about parallel lives, and that we have these experiences that are happening right now, which would freaking blow most people's minds, because it's something to comprehend, because we're on a timeline here. But to think that our past, present, and our future is all happening right now. You know, I talked about that Anita Moriani from Dying to Be Me. I don't know if I'm saying her name right, but it feels good for me to say her last name that way.
Yeah, it's Morjani.
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 She's talking about.
I was gonna say, I just know that because I heard her talk on another podcast, and that's how they. I was like, oh, is that how you say it? I didn't know either.
Nice. but she's talked about parallel lives and that we don't actually, everything's being experienced right now. And that it just me having that concept with experiencing loss of family members and my husband and everything, but going through that, it's like we don't ever really actually lose each other. We just don't see them here physically in this aspect right now. But it's like if all those are happening right now, because she experienced it, she got to see herself being the older sibling, just like you were talking over her brother, instead of her brother being the older one. I don't know if she was masculine in that space or not. It doesn't matter. Masculine and feminine only matter to us here in this timeline. But it was just very interesting because it's like if that's all going on right now, we have access to so much information, and the only reason we don't have access to it is because we're not allowing it. And allowing is really not the right word. We're choosing not to be in that space. We choose to not be there. And I've thought about all that stuff. It's like, well, if that's even true, like how magical is that? That means that there's like hundreds and thousands and millions of me in so many other timelines right now. What knowledge do I have? What experiences have I had? What can I bring to myself right now? Because we are the ones that limit ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we think that we have to do all these things, but what if going to learn a new language would be so easy because we've already learned it, we already knew it from another space, so we pick up things a lot quicker. The only thing is, I recognize that we block it. We block that from being a possibility. We can only experience what we think is possible. You know, you always hear Esther talking about, or Abraham Hicks talking about, you can manifest a button as easily as you can a castle. It just really matters about your mind, where your mind's going and what it's how it's limiting, you've been limiting yourself your whole life. And a lot of that is experiences from childhood and stuff, but it's growing beyond that. That's the old excuse. This is the bullshit I've carried from childhood. That's my old excuse. That's the victim me. I'm not that person anymore. I can't go back to that person. So as we're moving forward, so I don't really know what we're going to talk about today because I'm probably going to be all over the place. I've just been going through a lot, and it's just really trying to figure out what resonates with me still or doesn't.
Sure.
What feels right. So and everything is like it's just touch and go. And when I say touch and go, it's like, where are my emotions like this moment? Because they change from moment to moment. You know, I could be all fine and dandy. Next thing you know, I might cry for no reason.
Yep.
Which is another way we've talked about before, but it's another way of just like expressing, allowing those emotions to just like to come forward. Quit stifling. I read a nice long thing actually last night. This gal, and I think she's in the UK, she was talking about her son. She's sitting in the emergency room and she's watching everything all around her because she knows that she feels all this chaos inside of her. And, you know, being the mom, because she's there with her son, we feel like we got to be in control all the time, and we've got to hold this persona, or we have to look a certain way so that we give strength to our child, so they know that they're going to be okay, right? But it's like she was talking about, it's like we need to experience all that, because it's kind of like a lie when you pretend like it's not, when everything's fine. When you act like that, it kind of gives off the wrong impression to the person that's going through this experience, because what their experience is so different. It's scary. It's, you know, it's unknown. I hate waiting in the emergency room. There's a million emotions. And she said she was watching everybody around her, and how quick, within a matter of a couple of seconds, how we will like get a hold of ourselves real quick and like stuff all that stuff aside. And we don't recognize how much that can harm us. It's like, stop and feel the stuff. Talk about it if you need to talk about it. Process it if you need to process it. But don't just stuff it because you think that's the right thing to do.
Right, right. Um, I got distracted because I was wondering that while you were talking, if there would be feedback from my speaker into my microphone. So I was like, I got to make an adjustment. Yes. I totally am with you on that, we, I think this is like one of the messages that is wrapped up into what I've been talking about over the past couple of weeks, that, you know, as we're cleaning up our own stuff energetically, and and having the intention of doing and being better within ourselves, that we of course through that process we're learning to love ourselves. Like, we know none of us were taught that in our generation. I won't say none of us, but the majority of the population, right up into our generation, was not taught to love ourselves. And so in learning to that process, that you learn to love yourself, that you're going to emanate that automatically out towards others. And through that is a shift in the vibration. It's a shift in your environment. It's a shift that reaches out beyond your community, just because you're sitting at home going through this process. And that the more we shift into that space of loving ourselves and then emanating that out and shifting the vibration, then there has to be a global shift in some way. And people think that, well, just because I'm changing, what good is that going to do anybody else? We are vibrational beings. There's nothing, it's already been proven. Like, let's just put it that way. It's already been proven. So I'm not a scientific person. So if you want the gist on the science side, you got to go do your own research on that. But it's already been proven. We are energy, period. And when we shift our energy, our vibration, then that is what flows out from our field. And then that just becomes an automatic shift in what you're attracting, what you're putting out, right? And they say, what you put out, you're going to get back. And that's the other thing. I mean, I live by that too. I'm like, you know, I might be thinking a judgmental thought about somebody. That's energy, and that is being emanated out. But then if I actually say it, that's going to amplify it. So I'm like, oh, I'm having this thought that's pretty judgmental. I need to suck that in, and don't you speak those words, because first of all, it's not right. It's rude. Doesn't feel good. So let's shift what we're thinking about, right? Because all that is still, you put it out, you're going to get it back. So, you know, cleaning that up, cleaning up our mindset, cleaning up our emotions. We're still human. We're still going to feel the human emotions through the situations we experience. And like Bev said, you don't stuff them in. You feel them.
Yeah.
But when it comes to those emotions that could be harmful, so if you have anger issues, you don't know how to deal with your anger, and you actually get abusive in some way, then you want to get help for that. You want to discover a healthy way to move through that anger. For me, I'll just stand in a room, I clench my fists in my body, and I scream and I cuss, and I just, by myself, let me be clear, I'm by myself. I will scream at the top of my lungs, and whoever I'm angry at, I'll just cuss them out, again, by myself in a room. It could be writing, journaling, you know, cussing them out, you know, getting it out how you feel. Punching a pillow or a punching bag or something like that. Finding a healthy way to move those emotions, but definitely don't stuff them in. And if you're going through, you know, the grieving process, there's been a lot of that this year, only because most of it, it's been stronger this year as far as the grieving, because a lot of people haven't been able to actually physically be with their loved ones who are transitioning because of COVID, right? And you want to feel those emotions for sure. That is our human side, because if we just stuff them in, then it's just harming yourself physically, emotionally, and physically. And when you stuff those emotions in, now you're clouding, keeping your spirit clouded. And the idea is we want to connect more with our spiritual being and let it shine, still feeling those human emotions, still dealing with the negative ones in a healthy way, but we can still let our spirit shine. I've gone to places and I've pretty much have just sat there and listened and laughed and not really said much. And people are like, oh my God, it was so great being around you. You're so amazing. And I'm like, okay, I just sat here. I didn't even contribute much to the conversation, right? And it's because of the energy. And we want to be, then that energy is me allowing my spirit to say, here I am. Let's play. Let's be joyful. Let's be upbeat. Let's have good conversations. Let's laugh. Let's have a good time. And that is what people feel. I don't know if I got off track of what you talked about. And if I did, I apologize, but I was just like, this is what's coming to me. So I need to talk about. So.
And it's like, even for me, like going through you were just talking about grieving, and it's like going through that process. It's like, it's such a bunch of processes. And I've kind of talked about it in the past, it's so easy to go to alcohol and drugs and stuff. And because we're feeling all these emotions, because believe me, it's been freaking crazy. I mean, I feel like I've been on this roller coaster ride of emotions, and I know it's like it's a cleansing, it's a purging of the self, really. It's like all these things that I guess I never dealt with before, and now I'm having to deal with it. It's been in my face, but it's like going through that process, you just kind of see things so differently. There's been days that I've been so sad that I didn't want to be here, and there's been other days, and I knew that would pass, but it was a matter of getting past that feeling. I was never a person. I mean, maybe when I was younger, I did try a couple times to take myself out, but never really succeeded. That's why I'm still here. But as I've gotten older, it's like even going through this process, because when things hurt so bad, you just don't want to feel anymore. You don't want to feel any of it anymore, and you don't even take into consideration that you have your grandbabies or your daughters, or you need to be there for everybody else. It's like I didn't care. I didn't care because it hurt so much. But it's like I allowed myself to feel that hurt too. I didn't stuff it away, and I didn't go drink, and I didn't go do smoke pot or anything like that, which is something I could have done in the past for sure, and escaped from a lot of that stuff. But to me, I feel like when you escape from it, when you're in that process of going through that grieving, or if I'm in that anger at that moment, or whatever part I'm in through this process, I reset myself. I set myself backwards. So it's like I feel like if I was to drink which I can't even stomach anything right now, and I'm sure that has to do with stress. And that's just the body's way of saying you don't need any toxins in your body. And that's me listening to my body. But it's like if I was to drink when I was in that anger space, I might keep myself in that anger space and not be able to move past or move through that area. And it's been, what was the 28th? So it's been, 2.5 weeks since everything happened. But and I've had support too. It's like, knowing that you have support around you is a big deal. And don't give up on someone when they seem like they're grieving, and it's like if you're not reaching them. Everybody is it's like you're reachable. It just feels right at that moment. It feels like it's the worst thing in the world. It just does. So it's just learning how to really, like you said, to feel these things. I've always was a person to stuff and not feel anything like that at all. So it's like, for me, it's been having to feel things. It's I've seen a few movies recently, and the Phoenix was in it, so it's like you just basically catch fire, and that's how I felt like. And even going through the process, I ended up getting sick at some point, and it's like my body would hurt in such horrible ways. And now when I think about it, because the body was healing itself from this trauma, it was helping me work through things too, which we don't even recognize, but my body was doing so much for me, and it felt like everything was just burning up through me, and it finished off up in my neck into my head. I mean, that's where the last part of the process was, and it was painful and it hurt, and I just didn't feel good, and amongst everything else. But it's like now I'm starting to feel better. For me, it was a couple weeks. Not, and I still am experiencing things, but it's like it's not. It doesn't feel like I could just die right this minute. Like, just take me now, God. It doesn't feel like that anymore. I feel like there's a light. I feel like there's more to understand about the whole process. Because I was the one always telling him all the time, Jim, there's nothing that separates us. We are all connected. It doesn't matter if we're in the same room or not. It doesn't matter that mom's passed over to the other side or not. This is the crap I would tell him. I would tell him all the time. I'd be like, Jim, we are one with God, and God is one with us. These are the conversations I was having the Friday night before the last time I had seen him. Like, these are the conversations, and then it's like realizing that these conversations were for me. That fucking pissed me off.
I know. I was going to say that too. I was going to say that. I'm like, you were telling him, because this is the way I teach. I listen to what I'm teaching because I'm like, I'm teaching this for me. Not, you're just an audience. You're just showing up because you're attracted to me for the similar information, but I'm teaching it because I need to be reminded. I need to hear it. And that's what I started with earlier, right? Over the past 2 weeks, I've needed to come back to what I believed in. I need to say it. I need to teach it because it's going to reinforce how I feel about us being in a physical body. And that exact thought came to me this morning about you. I'm like, you know what? Bev had those conversations, not for him, for her.
Oh, I
her.
recognized it like almost immediately. Like right after he passed, it's like I recognized those conversations that whole time, motherfucker. I mean, that was for me, all of it, because, and maybe I think in a lot of ways that I was helping to give him information to pave a way for him. Like he did evolve a lot over the last, God, it's probably been like 6 months. He evolved a lot, and it's like I know that if I would have been in that space that whole time, so there's so much lessons to have been learned, because if I had been there, he wouldn't have got as close to his daughters. He wouldn't have got as close to his grandbabies. He wouldn't have got as close to his sister Julie. And they had grown so close over the last 6 months. Like there was so much and him and I did it as well. We became so much. We were always close, but it's like we had a different connection now. We had a different conversation, which pissed me off because that was another part of the anger part, because now you left. What the fuck?
Right.
Like you just up and you just peace out. Okay, you're just gonna go ahead and sign off. Like we were learning all this new stuff. And now
you
now
weren't
you're
learning
gone.
it for him. You were learning it for you.
I know. So it's like, and for me, I feel like a lot of the ways, in a place of where I'm at now, that we'll be working together, him and I. We'll be working together on many things.
For sure.
But I still got to move through that grieving part. I know, I understand the spiritual part. I saw a lady yesterday, and she says, it's hard because when we're spiritual, we know things, but it doesn't make a difference when we're grieving.
Right.
It doesn't. Sometimes it almost seemed like a smack in the face to me, because it's like I knew what I could see or how things could be if I could just get past this part, which I was struggling with at that. Well, I felt like I was struggling, but I wasn't. It was just part of the grieving process. It's like, let yourself grieve, however long it's supposed to be for you. But recognize if you're drinking or you're doing drugs or anything else, how that may be setting you back. I'm not saying that it sets you back, but I'm just saying for me, I feel like it would have kept me stuck, and I've been able to evolve through a lot of stuff. I've gotten pissed at him a few times, and I've told him off quite a few times. Like, what the hell? Like, you got your grandbabies here, but it's like he knew for the longest time. He's known, God, like 6 years, 5 years. He's been telling me that his job's been done. He doesn't have a job anymore. And to me, that's so crazy, because it's like, we're constantly learning and evolving. How can you not have a job anymore? I mean, how can you not? But that's just where he was at. And maybe that was his time he was supposed to go, because that's when he went. He fell asleep and had a heart attack, So, I mean, that's what he told, through spirit, told someone else. And I believe that. I mean, I don't doubt that at all. So, and he deserved to be going to sleep, really. He was a wonderful person.
He was tired. He
He
was
was
tired.
tired, and he was very tired. That's what he had talked about several times. He was
And I
only
get
50
that too,
kilograms,
because
though.
there's days
Yeah.
like I'm just like, I'm tired. I'm tired. I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I can't do it for me. I can't do, and I'm not grieving. I'm just like, I keep moving forward. I keep showing up. That's been my mantra since I was molested. Like, just keep going, keep showing up. And there's days I just throw my hands up and I'm just like, I guess you guys, talking to my universal team, you guys, I do not have the energy to keep going anymore. It's like I'm exhausted. And I there are days where I just feel like, am I really contributing any goodness to the shift of this planet, to even just one person, right? Because especially after, you know, us having to be quarantined and not being real social, and so it's like using technology, and am I still reaching people, am I still making a difference, am I, are my words still helping? And that one day that I go to the grocery store and run into somebody and they're like, oh my gosh, I saw your video, it was so amazing, it was just what I needed to hear, and not, I'm like, okay. I'll keep going, I'll keep showing up, and I'll keep doing this, because in my heart of hearts, I know I am contributing beneficial information and guidance for people. The other side of me is like, it's that, you know, your angel and your devil, if that's what you want to call it, is you're not doing it, you're not getting it right, you're not enough, you're wasting your time, you're, look at all this stuff you've learned, and you've not, you're still in the same spot, like you just haven't progressed. And so I have these two voices going at me all the time. And some days, like Sunday, I got a lot done on my website. I felt amazing. On Monday, I come in to work on my website and completely felt defeated. And I was just like, fuck it. I ain't doing this anymore. I can't, I'm tired. I want to progress. And so having that conflict. And so whether you're grieving through a process of a loss of somebody or just moving through life, you may have those experiences where you're just like, fuck it, I'm done. I'm just done. And and in those moments, this is where I have to pull myself in and go, no, I have all kinds of notes in front of me on a pegboard that's from people who have sent me letters and encouraging words and how I've helped them in their life. And I have them in front of me so I can sit here and read them so I can keep going and keep showing up. And in those instances, like when somebody is grieving, I can be their rock. I can hold that space for them to help them, uh, you know, pick themselves up when they're ready to keep moving on, and recognizing the lessons. What have you learned through the process of your grieving? What have you learned from the process of, you know, how things um, shifted from the time, you know, there was the separation physically, and then the conversations and all the healing that took place, and then the transition, and then your experience after the transition. Like, there's so much to be learned in those, in that time frame. And once you move through that and you recognize, wow, look at all the value, all the value that came from this whole, just this year and the whole experience, and and how much more information I have now that I can help others. Because then it ultimately comes back to loving one another, helping one another, supporting one another the best we can to get through this life. And then I add on to that, like, I want to be and do better every single day, the best that I can, because the next life is going to be more amazing. I'm going to be more amazing now, each and every day, but I'm setting myself up for the next life. So if I just give in and give up right now, I'm like, I don't want to fucking do this again in my next life, right? So I want to keep progressing so that my next life is going to be even more amazing. whether it's a next life or I end up being somebody's spirit guide. I want to be more amazing. And so knowing in me, for me, and what works for me is that cleaning that up now. Clean it up, keep going, clean it up, help people, support people, guide people, teach people, keep going, because you are adding value to people's lives. What it comes to is my ego says, I need that recognition. I need somebody to tell me that I'm helping them. And in those moments when I'm not getting that recognition are the moments when I am saying, I'm done. In those moments when I'm just out and about and I'm enjoying a day of shopping, or I'm just going to pick up some groceries and I run into somebody and they're like, oh my gosh, I saw your video and it was amazing and all that. Those are the moments that I can embrace that because it has true meaning. I'm not in that ego-based space. So receiving that information is receiving it in two different spaces of, it's not the recognition of feeding my ego, it's the confirmation, the saying you're doing a good thing. It's two completely different energies. But through our experiences, our experiences though, and our healing process, we bring that information forward to help others. I know I'm a teacher. I know I'm here to teach and to help people. And I'm going to experience stuff. And when I talk about it, it's going to resonate with other people. And they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I'm not alone. Oh my gosh, yeah, I got totally angry that this person died and things weren't the way I wanted it to be, or they were getting better and they just left, right? Now they know, oh, Bev has experienced this. And so, yeah, other people are out there having these experiences, but we don't talk about them. We're not stepping into our vulnerability to say, I'm experiencing this. This is how I felt and how I feel, but this is what I've learned and how I've grown. We only focus on the sadness or the anger or the defeat, the despair, right? We don't say, oh, but oh my God, like I get excited now. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is what I learned about it. And I want to share it because I know there are other people moving through this and they need to hear this too. And that's why I keep showing up every day, every week with this, with Facebook Lives, with posts, with emails, with classes, with workshops, because people, we have to have help from one another. We have to. We're human. We need each other. That's my rant.
I was going to say, in the midst of everything that I've been going through too, and a lot of us, and we've talked before about asking for help, but asking God. I mean, there was the days that I didn't want to be here. It's not just asking him to take me away from here, but it was asking God to, I don't want to feel like this anymore. This just feels horrible. I want to be happy. I want to, I want to be light about life, and it shouldn't be so heavy and so serious like this all the time. It's just, and asking for that help. I don't know that I would recognize it that same day, maybe, but the next morning when I woke up, I felt lighter, I felt happier, or I felt, whatever I was feeling. So it's just like we've talked about before, asking for what you want, but then letting it happen, just letting go of it. And then at that time, I was just in the moment, and whatever the moment might have brought me, I was in the moment.
We had the conversation. I just want to bring this up too, because I think it's important for people to understand this. I think that this is just a perspective for me, and you can, let me know how you feel about it. That, and I mentioned it to you too, is that, well, really our grieving process is going to be is how long we want it to be. We're all going to grieve differently, and the time length is different for everyone. Somebody, it's going to be a few days, and some people it's going to be 30 years, right? We don't know. But in the beginning, when the whole event takes place, you're trying to maintain your energy and your process of that grieving But then all the people are coming to you,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going through their grieving process, and now they got to share that with you. And then it's the people, what people know what to say is, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And so you're continuously hearing that over and over and over and over again, and feeling other people's sadness over and over and over and over again. And so it's like this big huge cloud of sadness just resting on you and around you, and it's not even yours. Like
Mm-hmm.
you've just taken it in and made it yours, but it's not yours, it's everybody else's stuff. Whereas you could have been like, well, he decided to go back home, and I'm glad that we had this human life together. Look how much we learned from each other. It was amazing lessons for both of us. Our spirits are right. It's all about perspective. And had, to me, I'm like, all right, when somebody passes, I'm just going to lock myself in a room. I'm going to process it. I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to look at the value and the lessons in our life together. And I know that they're back in spirit, back with source and in that loving space, and be blessed that we had the life of spiritual growth that we had together. Right. And do my own process. That would mean like no emails, no social media, no phone, no texting. It's like, let me have my space so I can maintain and attend to my energy and my process of this without having 100 people calling me every day and laying their sorrows on me, and because it's like, that's not the responsibility I want. Does that make sense?
It does.
So does any of that, like having a different perspective about this, does any of that make sense or resonate with you, or looking at it from the other side?
Some of it was I just want to feel my own energy right now. And I would recognize it was different. A lot of people, which I noticed, were just coming forward and saying he was such an amazing person. We all thought so much of him, and and tell him those are the things. So from my perspective, when someone's coming to give a shoulder, or to you're approaching someone that's grieving, which I'm kind of glad we're talking about this. For me, when people were approaching me, telling me how amazing they thought he was, because I know he always went above and beyond for working for people. That was him. That was his nature. At his own, even against himself sometimes, I think, because he needed to give himself whatever. But when someone's coming towards you, so when they were coming towards me and telling me these things, and not saying that they were sorry, because I didn't hear a whole lot of that, or maybe I did, maybe they did say it and I just didn't hear it, because we talked before about energy attracts energy. We're gonna become a match with people, but it's like, it's knowing that when someone's grieving and you're approaching them, just telling them how amazing the person was, and just being supportive. It's not being sorry. It's not being in their sadness. Even though you may be experiencing a sadness, this may have brought forth some grieving for yourself too. But when you approach people with such a different way, that I noticed, because I was being approached in so many different ways, that it feels so much, it's more comforting to me. It was more relief for me. It was more, and it wasn't all about me, but it was how I was feeling and how people are coming forward. So it really does make a big difference how you come forward and talk to somebody, and the things that you say. You don't have to be, a lot of times I think we think that we have to dip down into someone's energy. And when I say dip down, that we got to match them. So if you're way up here and you're coming towards me, a grieving person, that you want to step down into that space, that energy to uplift me and support me, we can't uplift anybody from that same energy. So maintaining your great energy when you approach someone that's going through grief there's, like we talked about earlier on in this conversation, is more of a benefit to the person than anything else. Because we cannot be sad enough for somebody else that's grieving. We cannot be angry enough for someone else that's in anger. You just can't. there's no way, it's not possible. It's the same energy. You have to be in a different energy in order to uplift others. And that's why we talked about, even you were saying, even being in the same room and doing nothing, you know, just being the light, just being the person, just carrying that energy with you, letting that be your focus. And you know, in that space of love we talked about early on, it's like really in every moment to be in that space of love, being the best version of ourselves, because when we are, we're the best version for everybody else. And it is palpable. You can feel it. It is effective. It has made a difference for me.
Yeah, I I do. I struggle being in the presence of somebody who is struggling through that grief themselves. I can be there. I can have the comfort and the shoulder and the hugs and conversations. What I struggle with is, like you just said, dipping into their energy. Grief is like one of the lowest vibrations on the scale. And I've been there. I spent most of my life in that energy, and it doesn't feel good to me. So when I am around the presence of somebody who is grieving the loss of a loved one, I have to be very aware of my own energy, and and I my intention is to be the light, to let them feel the lighter side of life and the other side of grief, and know that you know, there's the hope and the faith that, you know, you're going to get through this, and you're going to be okay, and we're going to keep going, right? Keep going, keep showing up. I just have a difficult time of, I very rarely will I ever tell somebody I'm sorry for your loss, because I'm not. I mean, I'm just going to be real. I'm not. I'm excited that this person came into this life, that we had the interactions that we had, just like I said earlier, and that they get to move on back into spirit, which is where love and joy is.
It's true.
And know that our interaction had benefit. If I stay in a grieving space, the lowest vibration on the scale, I relate that in my head and in my being, that I'm taking this personal, in the sense that this happened to me. Losing this person happened to me. And that's not how I see it at all. This happened for me. What have I learned from our relationship? What have I learned from our conversations? What have I learned in a sense that this is going to help me be and do better? What This helps me understand the value of life while we're here. This helps me understand how important humanity is, and our connection, and how we talk to people, and the fact that we criticize and judge instead of love and support. And so there's so much through the experience of life and through the experience of death, that it's just so valuable and so amazing and so beautiful. And so to tell somebody I'm sorry, I mean, just for me to say that, I'm just like cringing, like, oh, I don't even feel good. I want to tell them, oh my gosh, I'm so excited, you know. Then that's not going to go over well if somebody's grieving or at a funeral or anything, right? It's just like, okay, lady, you're a little wild. But that's how I feel because of the spirit side. The spirit has, the only thing that has, we are attracted to each other's spirit. We're attracted. And it's the funniest thing, because now that I'm talking about it, the first thing I notice about people is their eyes. And the eyes are the seat of the soul.
Mm-hmm.
And so we actually, we're not attracted to each other physically in majority of the cases of relationships. We are attracted to each other's spirit. And even
Energetically.
though, do I?
It's energetically. We are energetically.
Yes.
We'll talk more about that in a second.
We're energetically attracted to each other. That means we are spiritually, in a spiritual sense, we're attracted to each other. And so it is our spirit that we're attracted to, not the physical body. So when somebody drops their physical body and returns back to spirit, the spirit's still alive and we're still attracted to them. We can still interact with them and communicate with them. We got to learn a new language.
Truth.
We have to learn a new language. It's like learning Russian or German or Japanese or whatever. We got to learn a new language to communicate with them. We have to be aware of our vibration and our energy in order to communicate with them. And so embrace the joy of the life that you had, or the lessons you learned, because not all relationships end on a good note, and people carry that guilt with them because, well, the last thing I did to them was yell at them and now they're gone and now I feel horrible. What did you learn? Life is precious. Life is a gift. Life is beautiful. Life is amazing. And even in those times of guilt and shame and fear, like, you're still learning. You're still learning. That's the way I learned something about myself just the other day. I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. It was amazing. It was an amazing lesson. And I am on that journey of, I always want to learn about myself. I want to learn about myself. I want to learn how I operate. I want to learn about my spirit. I want to learn about my energy. I want to know more and more and more, because my goal is to be and do better the best I can each and every day, not slide back. I know what it feels like to slide back. I know what that space feels like, that energy feels like. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. Right? It doesn't feel good. So then every conversation we have comes back to, how do you feel? And if it doesn't feel good, you do what you can, the best way you can, to move yourself in the direction of feeling better. I'm not saying you're going to go from grief to exhilaration like that. It's possible, yes, but most people aren't going to do that. We got to work our way back to that space, right? And doing it the best way you can.
You know, something else I noticed too, and maybe I'm not using the right words or my perspective, but when you're grieving, it's like I'm not valuing everything everything that person was. When I would tell you that Michael had, my brother, there was a lot to him. He was a great teacher. He was a great guide. He was, he may have made mistakes, what we would consider mistakes, but there was so much value that came from him. So I couldn't sit and look at him as a bad person or anything bad, because there was such value in him. There was such value in my mom. And it's like, for me, and I'm not saying that we got to go through this process. Believe me, if I could have escaped it, I would have done it. But it was part of my process, and I needed to feel this stuff. I needed to. But it's like, for me, I can't be in that grieving process any longer like that, because it's taking away the value of just everything you were just saying. Because I understand the spirit side, and I understand there is no separation. I understand all these things that I was telling him. I understood it all. Now I'm practicing it. It's now in my daily practice. But when I'm sitting and valuing that relationship, I can't be in the same space with grief, right? I can't feel grief and value at the same time. So when I'm grieving, I'm not valuing all that person had to offer, all that we learned from each other, all that we did together. I'm not valuing that. And so to me, that's my perspective. So from my perspective now, I would tell you that I find value in everything. I find value in the conversations that we have. Talk about leaving on a note that he left on, with all the conversations that he's had recently with everybody, how he tied up so many loose ends is freaking amazing. Like, it was, in hindsight, I would tell you that he he knew beforehand. I mean, he wrote me a letter in July that how much he loved me, that he knew that he had lost me, you know, but he explained, but he never lost me. He never lost me. He explained this process like from the very beginning when we very first met, but this whole thing, he gave me a journey of what he saw life as. Huge, huge. It's like, you know, it's funny because like I was saying earlier, we always say something and then we got to listen to our words because we're giving ourselves information. How often he was giving himself information. I would try to turn it around on him all the time. And he'd be like, but Bev, you're the light and you're this. And I'm like, yeah, but so are you. These are all messages. Listen to the words that you're telling me that I would tell him. Listen to what you're telling me because that's our value, right? It's not our value, but it's giving credence. It's giving value to the relationship. There's so much importance, and I keep saying value because our relationships are so valuable. They're priceless. You can't put dollar signs on it. There's so much more to all of it than that. So for me, it's easy to step out of the grieving process because I'm at a point where it's time for me to appreciate all that I did have, because I do. I mean, everything was awesome. It may not have always been awesome when I was in it because we have a tendency to tell ourselves stories, and we have a tendency to stay in these stories over and over and over again, and we tell ourselves this story every single day. And, you know, I've told everyone, you know, pay attention to the story you're saying, pay attention to what you're telling yourself. And that's come forward for me even bigger because it was the story I was telling myself. It was the story I was telling myself about my experiences and my existence. And I kept reading all this stuff. It says you need to find things to appreciate about this person, find things to appreciate about life, you know, all that stuff. And it's until you go through this type of experience, for me, until I went through this experience, I wouldn't understand really all that I was saying. I could comprehend it, but I wasn't experiencing it. And now I'm experiencing it. Everything's a little different. So it's just experience it, appreciate the people that are around you, and the more that we're in anger and hate and grievance and sadness, the
guilt.
further we are. Yeah, and guilt. Oh yeah.
Guilt is huge.
It is huge. The further you are away from really receiving all the wonderful things that are right in front of you. And it's just by switching it around and appreciating.
Well, and that's why I mentioned the spirit earlier, like we're attracted to our spirit or each other's spirit is when we lose somebody physically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's hard to say those words, really. It's hard for me to say lose and loss and death and, you know, died. Those words are not easy for me to say. They just transition from the physical body to spirit. It's the same spirit, it's the same energy. Their energy raises, their vibration raises because they went back into the spirit realm. And because the physical body is what is dense. We have a dense energy because we are in the physical body. But it's the grieving process of the loss of the physical body is and if you focus on, I feel, and I believe this strongly, that if you focused more on the spirit of a person while they're in the physical body, then when they transition and back into spirit, you're still honoring and valuing and embracing and connecting to their spirit, not the physical body. We got to get past seeing and needing, I think that's the word, needing the physical body. We need the physical body to have a human experience, but we don't need the physical body to have a spiritual connection.
Right.
And that comes from a space of love. When you need the physical body to have the connection, you're living in a space of fear.
Yes.
And I just said that because I needed to hear it because of something I've been processing. Got to get past needing the physical body, connect more with the spirit of that person. So when they do transition, still connected. Nothing's changed other than they're just not here in that physical body. They are still with me and we are still connected because we are connected to everyone, everything,
We're
all
more
that ever
connected.
was. Huh?
More connected. We're
More
more
connected.
connected.
And I feel
Because
that to be more
we
true
are higher
too.
vibration. Yeah. Because
I
they're
feel,
higher.
yeah, I feel we're more connected when somebody transition than when they're in the physical body, because we have
Yes.
all that humanness that gets in the way.
Yes, that weighs you down. That you think weighs you down.
Yes.
Which is conversations that Jim would say, since he's passed, I feel great. I'm not stressed anymore. And he
Restricted.
was stressed. Yeah. Stress, and that binds you up. So it's like the connection is even stronger now. They can be with a million people at one time. Think about that, because there's no
Millions.
separation. Yes. So they can be with us all at the same time. We can do so much more from that. And we can be, when we're in these physical bodies, we can live in an unlimitedness. I mean, because there is no limits. But it's like processing that, realizing that what you just said, that when we're spirits, what we were talking about, when we're spirit, or we're totally connected, our vibration's naturally higher. We're not weighed down by stuff that's here. But we don't have to be weighed down by stuff that's here. We do not. We've lived that. I've lived that for 50 years. I don't have to live it anymore. I don't. It's my choice. And it's a matter of perspective. It's a matter of how you want to look at things. Because I can find value in each one of my relationships. I can tell you that my mom was showing me her I could feel her energy when she was going through her transition, in the process of her transition of leaving her body. When she'd give me hugs, I would feel this vibration from her. So she taught me how to feel that vibration. My brother taught me how that we can still keep growing way after his left his physical body. There's nothing that stops that growth. There's nothing, you can say your sorries. You can tell your story to them, whatever your story is at that moment. And it changes everything. That relationship still changes between you and that person. It still changes. And it's like
Even when
I've
they're
learned to,
transitioned, right?
oh
That's
yeah,
what you're
yeah,
talking about. Yeah, I need to point that out because that is still clearing up energy around a relationship. So
yes,
if your relationship wasn't that great, or you wanted to make an amends but you never did, and so now you have that, we come back to that guilt, um that you can still have that conversation with them when they're in spirit. They still hear you,
yep.
they still get it,
And
but they
communication,
they are not in that space anymore. Like, they
no,
don't hold grudges, they're not judging you, they're not like pissed at you because you never said I'm sorry, or you never, right? They don't know. Once you transition into spirit, there's like, like
yep,
slates
no
clean with
fear.
them.
That's right. That's right. There's no fear. One of the conversations was, asking Jim, since he's transitioned, how do you feel about this person? It's like, well, from here, we love everybody. That's huge.
No
That's not how
matter
Jim would
what.
approach words. Yeah, he would not have said those words while he was here, but those were his words on the other side. I say the other side. There's no separation, but people can understand that he's from the kitchen, right? I can hear him from the kitchen saying things, but it's like it's that communication and being open to that. Like you were just saying, it's learning a whole new language. It's remembering a whole new language. We all know this language. We all know it.
We do. We
And it's an
do.
awesome thing. It's so awesome.
So this comes back to my past life talks, because um, in eons ago, the people that are doing the work now, talking about spirit, essential oils, herbs, right? Uh, uh, Psychic mediums, whatever terminology you want to use, it wasn't accepted. We were condemned. We were burned. We were drowned. We were beaten. And I know it's a knowingness. It's not a human knowing. It's a spiritual knowing that that this planet right now is gifted with all those spirits come back into physical being to now be able to share these gifts that we had so many years ago that we got in trouble for. Like, we're here now doing that work,
Yep.
and we're spreading the word. Like, spirit is an energy, period. And we are connected.
Yep.
And we all, just like you said, we all have the ability to have that connection, to communicate. We have the connection. We all have the ability to communicate with the spirit. Whole nother conversation, how religion clouds it, how your upbringing clouds it, how your fear clouds it. All right. Those are all other conversations. Those are all like full day conversations right there.
How your wanting and your needing keeps you from it.
Yep. Your grieving keeps you from it. Your shame
Absolutely.
and guilt keeps you from it.
Yes.
We all have the ability for communication with spirit. End of story.
Period.
And stop giving credit to the movies that are instilling fear in you about spirit. Or just stop. Just stop with that story. Spirit is love. Spirit comes from love. I do angel messages, angel readings, all from a space of love. There's no fear-based messages that I bring forth through that communication of giving somebody a reading. It is all love-based.
Yes.
Why? Because I attract love. And I choose to live in a space of love. I choose to not allow fear-based communication with spirit, only love. And that is all I will allow in. End of story. And this is your ability too. You have that ability. You, the audience, we all have this ability. And when we come back to our spirit, if you take your finger and you point at yourself, 99.99999% of the time, people point right to their heart center. And that is where your spirit lives. This is what puts you in a space of fear. Your thinking process, your mindset, your headspace, your ego, that puts you in a space of fear when it comes to talking or believing in or thinking that you could communicate with spirit. This is what gets in the way. But if you come to your heart is where spirit comes from. And heart is the representation of love. Don't argue with me about it. You'll lose. Or I will walk away.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having this conversation. I think it was needed. Not everybody, I know not everybody's going to agree with some of the things that I said as far as grieving, because it's like, well, what about this scenario? What about that scenario? What about children? What about murder? What about, spirit?
Spirit, energy.
Source is love.
And we're energy.
Unconditional love. Unconditional love. And my desire is for people to move more towards, I think, just thinking about it and talking about it, the upbringing. If you're religious, you may not want to hear this either. The upbringing has been about religion, but there's been now more people. I mean, people were questioning it years ago. I talked to a lot of people now who are in my age or older. They're just like, yeah, when I was going to church, they were seeing things, that they're saying things and teaching things that was just like, what? That don't make sense. That doesn't feel good, right? But at that time, they're real little. The parents are like, stop it, shut up, sit down, right? This is the way it is.
That's right.
I think now, because so many teachers have come forth. I mean, you got Sylvia Brown, John Edwards, James Van Prague, Jerry and Esther Hicks coming forth with Abraham. And I know there was one before that. Her name was Jane. I don't know her last name. But these people that have been doing this since, or Edgar Allan, Edgar Casey since what, the 20s or 30s?
Yeah, I don't even know.
Right? It's been an evolution. And I just feel like there's been a generation that's come in where, again, us witches from the past are come forth, and we are now teaching, and we're letting you know, like, we all have these gifts and you can learn them. There's so much information out there. When you're seeking out information, when you're seeking out the learning of being able to connect with spirit, this is a demand from me. It must feel good. It must resonate with you. It must come from a space of love, period. If it is outside of any of that, you need to keep scrolling, go to a different website, listen to a different YouTube video, listen to a different teacher. If it is outside of those three things.
That's right.
Love, unconditional love is our source. There's no question about that. Unconditional love. So connecting with spirit would only come from a space of love. But through the years, the religion clouded so many people. And there's been, I feel like, when they made, okay, we can't bring God into the workspace. We can't bring God into the schools. We can't, right? They started severing that. I think because of that, it created a space for more people to surface about a spiritual side instead of a dogma side. That gave us that freedom to rise and speak and teach. And I feel like the religion sides are starting to subtly transition and speaking and teaching differently, just through conversations I've had with people and things that I don't go to church, and it's not a norm for me. But from the stories I hear and the way people are talking, like, there's subtle changes taking place, moving more in a direction of not using religion as a means of control. It is moving into a space of connection. Not making people feel like they were wrong for coming into the physical body. Learning to embrace ourselves as we're here. And know that we can still be in a space of love with each other. So that's what I got to say about that right now. I could go on and on and on about that topic too. So.
Oh, me too. I was never attracted to it because for me it was always a fear-based thing, and I don't operate. And that's paying attention to how we feel, but I'll automatically shut down. I just shut down. Yeah. It's not because I just straight up shut down. I don't have any desire for it. So when I talk about God, I talk about God in the spiritual sense. I talk about God in the unconditional love sense. I talk about God in that we're all part of the same thing. We're all connected because of God. We're all connected. We are those gods. I talk about it from a whole different, and if you talked to me 5 years ago, I would never have talked like this. I wouldn't have. It was just, it was so foreign to me, and so I was so against it because I was against a lot of religion. I grew up in I didn't grow up in churches, but my mom was constantly, I think, looking outside of herself, trying to she knew there was something more, and trying to find it. But it's like she wasn't finding it at any of the churches she was going to, and she would still keep trying to find another church, just looking to receive that information, one where they weren't trying to talk you that you should be afraid, or that you had to do this in order to get into heaven, or you have to do something, and that's not the way it is. My belief is you just being in your unconditional love, being in love in every moment and everything that we do, being the best version of ourselves.
And sometimes it starts with yourself.
Yeah, it does. Well, all of it does. It
I
really
mean,
does.
love has to start with yourself. I had to learn
It
that.
does.
I'm not
Yeah.
teaching this like I've been doing it my whole life. It's new to
Yeah.
me in the past
Yeah.
20 years. But the love has to start with yourself. And that love is that you are spirit and body, or spirit is love. Spirit came from source. Source is unconditional love. How can you not be love?
That's right. You don't have to do anything to earn it. Just because you are means you deserve.
Exactly. Just because it's your innate birthright. You are spirit. Own it.
It's true. Like you said earlier, get to know yourself. No, you were saying you want you getting to know every part of you, and that's the same. Most of us don't know anything about us, but we could say all kinds of things. I could tell you a million things about, my partner, or whatever. I could go into those kind of details, but most of us didn't know anything about us. And that's the most important relationship, because if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, then you're not really having a good relationship with anybody else.
So if that what came up to me was we want to tell other people how to live their lives and what to do, when to do, why to do, when we don't even know why we do the shit we do. And that's what I mean, learning about yourself. Why did you make those choices? Why did you decide to do that? Why did you pick that color? Why are you thinking these thoughts over and over and over again if they don't feel good? How come you're still in that emotion that's keeping you down, right? It's learning about yourself. What is keeping you in that space? And the
Yep.
more you learn about yourself and connect with your spirit is going to shine. Spirit
Unlimited.
will prevail because you're going to drop the physical body someday.
True.
Spirit will prevail. Let it prevail now. Be in the space of love, of loving yourself and each other from connection of heart space. And I'm like pounding people today. I'm like, come on, bring it hard. Bev, I truly appreciate you showing up today and sharing um, your experiences and bringing forth information that I know is going to help other people. So this is why we show up every week. And not only, I mean, this isn't just a once a week thing. We have other things going on that we're touching people's lives and connecting and guiding people. And so if you want to connect with us, you can send us an email. It's amieandbev@gmail.com. AMIEANDBEV. It's all spelled out. amieandbev@gmail.com. You can connect with us that way. We also have our Facebook page. It's Amie and Bev, but it's AMIE and the and sign. It's a little curly round S thing, Bev. We have Amie and Bev Community, which is our group. And then I have my business page, Amie Wade dash emotional resiliency coach. And then I also have a private group is called Walking This Journey with Amie Wade. I'm very protective of our groups, and so just keep that in mind. You can also share our information. We are on Spreaker, which is the podcast platform for audio. We're on YouTube, our YouTube station that is Amie and Bev as well. So with that being said, you're more than welcome to communicate with us in any of those ways and leave us some comments or questions. Maybe there's a topic that you want us to talk about from our perspective. We are not the know-it-alls. That is not how we come forward. We come forward with the information that we have from our own wisdom and knowledge from our life experiences. And so just keep that in mind. So we'd be more than happy to talk about any topic that you would like to bring forth. So with that, thank you for being with us. Tea Time with Amie and Bev, and we'll be back next week.
Have a great week.